Oh, baby. I think we're back. Chopping It Up podcast is back. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Chandler Wilkerson, a.k.a. Chan, a.k.a. Big Country _6 on Instagram, on Twitter. Man, it's time to talk some Braves baseball, and I'm so excited. Opening day is tomorrow. Less than 24 hours until Braves baseball 2023. Last time we podcasted, it was against it was right before the DS against the Phillies. Listen, we ran into the hot team, and big deal. We lost. You could hardly call that season a failure. I mean, we won 101 games. We absolutely had to battle against the Mets every step of the way, just back and forth. I'm surprised that they weren't completely exhausted. Turns out, I guess the team was a little sick too, but we're not making excuses here. It's time to talk about this season because we reloaded this offseason. We're going to start with some key additions and some key losses. Obviously, the Sean Murphy trade was the big blockbuster trade, but also Joe Jimenez, Lucas Letge, Jordan Luplow, and Nick Anderson are all pretty guys that could really be, I guess, an impact this season. Bullpen has gotten really deep. The outfield is stacked. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Let's talk a little bit about the key losses as well. Dansby Swanson, we lost him to the Cubs in free agency. Cubs really overpaid for him. I wish him the best. I wish he would stop opening his mouth up about Atlanta, but we're not going to get into that. This is not a Dansby Swanson slander edition, but it's kind of I don't really like you throwing shade at, showering Chicago sports with such love after you spent years in Atlanta and claimed to be this Atlanta, Georgia boy. Anyway, moving on. The only other loss in the offseason that I really is going to kind of stick with me is William Contreras. We had to deal him to the Brewers as part of the 3-team deal in the Oakland trade to get Sean Murphy. And we kind of, it cost us a couple of other low-level guys. Kyle Muller was probably amongst the ones that were the most significant, I guess. But outside of that, Luke Jackson is with San Francisco now. That's about the only what I would call key losses in offseason. But you get more than you lose, and this team already was great, and I think they got better. So we'll talk a little bit more about season predictions a little later. So let's actually move to spring training. It was a very, very eventful spring training for the Braves. Stories out of camp, especially with the World Baseball Classic being played. Braves had a couple of guys that were in that, and we're going to talk about that too. But let's start with the thing that caught my eye the most, and it is Matt Olson is hot. The dude is scorching. I mean, the guy had 8 home runs and I guess 50 or so at bats. It wasn't that frequent, and obviously he won't be able to keep that kind of pace up. But the guy is locked in; he's ready to go. And I think last year was kind of like a warm up to the team season for him. Also, he tends to have better numbers in odd years. Apparently his 2017, 2019, 2021 years are all some of his best statistical years in terms of batting and even fielding percentage and stuff like that. So I think Matt Olson is going to come out of the gate really, really hot, and we'll see about that. We're really excited. Another thing, Mike Soroka is pitching again after so many setbacks. It seems like it's just setback after setback with him, and we miss him so much. Now, there's no telling if he'll ever be the pitcher that he was, but hey, we can hope. And he did make us at least one start this spring. Wasn't the greatest, but he got out there and he pitched. And that's about as much as I can hope for as a Braves fan for him. Another spring story out of camp is the Sean Murphy and Travis d'Arnaud relationship. I think is very interesting, but it seems to be fruitful. Like, they seem to be getting stuff from each other that they really value, but also it's competitive. So it's fruitful and competitive at the same time. So you can tell those guys are very professional, and the vibe around this team is immaculate. Also, Travis d'Arnaud hit a hole-in-one in their little spring training golf match against each other. I can't imagine hitting a a hole-in-one in front of myself, much less 20 other people in the tee box. I would have went crazy. Apparently, they all did go crazy. That's pretty cool. Other things to take away from Braves camp this spring, Ronald Acuna is back to 100%. He looks great. His knee seems to finally be back to where it was. He says it's even better, actually. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's looking good, guys. Another thing, Eddie Rosario seems to get he got to much needed big game time in the World Baseball Classic. I felt like he needed that, and he seems to be looking like his old self. Last couple of spring training games, he hit a couple of homers, had some extra base hits mixed in there, and he looks like he's got his vision back. So, 2-eye Eddie. Well, I mean, hopefully if we get anything like the Eddie Rosario we had in the NLCS in 2021, it's going to be hard to unseat the Braves in the NL. It really is. I already have us winning the East, but we'll talk a little bit later about season predictions and what I think about what the experts have been saying. Couple minor injuries to start the season. 15-day IL for Kyle Wright. He's got shoulder inflammation. That's kind of a bummer. You kind of wanted to see him start the season after he had such a great comeback season, really improved over last year. I think we'll see some of the same from him, but 15-day IL stint to start the season, well, you'll work with it. So we'll talk about the rotation as well. Iglesias also out, short IL stint for him. I think it's 10-day IL for Iglesias, which brings me to this. We were talking about the bullpen earlier, and the bullpen is deep. It's pretty deep. I mean, you got Letge, Jimenez, Dylan Lee. You've got AJ Minter. I mean, we got way more lefties this year than we've had in a long time. It's really good to have some extra lefties in the bullpen. I know everyone's really high on righties in the bullpen, but having more lefty-lefty matchups is definitely in the new rules. I'm not going to touch much on the new rules. I don't hate them, but I'm not crazy about them either. And it's okay for me. I come from about an hour away in LaGrange, Georgia, to come to Braves games. So if I can get home a little bit earlier, that'd be cool. But other than that, I don't much care for shortening the game. But there are moments where I'm like, all right, come on, let's get this going. So I guess it's a give and take with the new rules, so I won't touch much more on there. I do want to talk about the possibility of closing games for us. Initially, I think it's going to be Iglesias when he comes back. But right now, I think this is the perfect opportunity early in the season while Iglesias is on the IL for AJ Minter to get a chance to close games for us consistently. And we had experimented with this before, and this was back when he was just major time struggling, like 2-3 years ago when we had to send him down to the minors and coming back up. I think this is AJ Minter's possible time to really submit his audition, I would say, for closer. So I think it's between Iglesias and Minter for the closing job. Nice little friendly competition to look forward to going in there. New young arms in the rotation, however, are emerging. We have Jared Schuster and Dylan Dodd. These guys are going to be making spot starts in replacement of Kyle Wright and I guess Mike Soroka while he's trying to work back. Ian Anderson seems to be out of the picture for now. He struggled during the spring. Some more issues with walks, more issues with first inning runs. I really feel for Ian Anderson, man. But you got to get it under control. We'll send you back down to AAA. You get to work on it. We maybe get you some spot starts early this season. But it's looking like Schuster and Dodd are going to be the guys. Jared Schuster and Dylan Dodd both had great springs, made some really good impressions with the coaching staff and the pitching staff. I'm looking forward to seeing them. I didn't get to watch as many spring games as I wanted to. Obviously, they black out some games here and there, and spring games are... Obviously, I was watching the World Baseball Classic. That was electric. Anyone who is a World Baseball Classic hater, don't watch my podcast. You're not a baseball fan if you don't like the World Baseball Classic. I'm sorry. Injuries happen. Injuries are part of the game. We hate injuries, but it doesn't mean we blame other events outside of Major League Baseball for those injuries. It's not anybody's fault. It's not the event's fault. People love baseball. If you love baseball and you're watching this, give me a subscription and, subscribe, all that stuff. I love baseball. There's no doubt about it. And obviously, I love the Atlanta Braves. I'm a day one. But moving along, the pitching staff, the rotation early, I guess you would call it issues, but I wouldn't necessarily call it that. It's a little stepping stone. I'll give it a stepping stone. Shortstop situation. We have Arcia. Looks like he's going to get the day one start, the day one starter at shortstop. His spring was okay. He struggled with it, played a little bit. Later on, he picked it up. So he looked like he might be a little bit more ready now at the plate. But he was the clear choice, apparently, for the coaching staff because of his defense. Vaughn Grissom, going to go to AAA for a while. Braden Shoemake is also a guy that has been mentioned in the Atlanta Braves circle. So he may get some shots to take at shortstop as well. But Grissom and Shoemaker in AAA now. It looks like Arcia is going to be the guy to start the year. A bit of a curveball. We thought maybe that AA might be making a deal, but as of right now, that is not the case. And so that's the only, I guess, question mark in the infield, because you got Riley at third, you got Ozzie at second, you've got Matt Olson at first, you've got the catching duo of Murphy and d'Arnaud, and of course you got the rotation. So the only question is the outfield? No, there's no question. The outfield is stacked. Left field platoon looks like it's going to be Eddie Rosario, and Jordan Luplow, who's coming over basically as a lefty quote-unquote killer from Arizona. And he's got a pretty high OPS against lefties in his career, but it's his splits are horrible. We'll be keeping an eye out on Luplow. But I'm going to get into a little bit of some predictions here. And these are going to be player predictions, and they're also going to be team predictions. Listen to me. Like I said, the outfield is stacked because it starts right there in center field. Michael Harris is going to be a bona fide superstar. And if you don't believe me, ask Chipper Jones. I don't know if you've heard of that guy, but he said it too, and I am right there on the train with him. I think Harris is going to have 25-plus homers. I think he's going to have 95 or 90-plus RBIs this year. He's probably going to win a Gold Glove. He's going to be a superstar. He's going to be on covers before you know it. Magazine covers, sports covers, whatever. The guy's a superstar in training this year. Calling it. And, of course, right field, the franchise centerpiece as we know him. Rade! Te amo de siempre! Ronald Acuna Jr., El Abusador, La Bestia. Love that guy. He almost had the 40-40 season a couple of years ago. Possible 40-40 watch this year. Possible MVP watch this year. Really high on Ronnie. Coming off the knee injury, looking 100%. And, here's the more controversial part of the lineup. Marcell Ozuna is still a thing, whether you like it or not. I'm indifferent. He's hit well this spring, over 300 average in his plate appearances. So one last chance for Ozuna, I guess. Sorry if you don't like that opinion. I'm not here to argue. I'm just here to give mine. Rotation, like I said, looking good. Spencer Strider? Cy Young? Question mark? Max Fried? Co-Cy Young? Question mark? Both of the top two guys in this rotation are as good as anybody else's in the majors, including Scherzer, Verlander, including... I can't even think of anybody else. Not off the top of my head anyway. But those two are as good as any top two pitching duo right now. You got Wild Thing, and you got... I used to call, when he first came up, I used to call him New Tom Glavine. Love me some Max Fried. Hopefully we'll get a deal done with him this year. During the year, I'm tired of the extension talks after the year is done. Hopefully we can get it done during the year, because I don't want to lose Max Fried to free agency. So I've learned that the Braves don't extend you during the year. You're probably not getting an extension. So hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. Opening day! We are less than 24 hours from it. Washington road trip matchup will be Freed and Patrick Corbin tomorrow, 1 p.m. first pitch. All right, how would I line things up tomorrow? This is how I would do it. Acuna leading off. Batting second, Ozzie Albies. Batting third, Austin Riley. Batting fourth, Matt Olson. Batting fifth, Sean Murphy. Batting sixth, Michael Harris. Batting seventh, Marcell Ozuna. Batting eighth, Eddie Rosario. And batting ninth, Orlando Arcia. Now, that's just how I would line it up. I know you probably got some lefty-lefty discrepancies there, but Rosario was hitting pretty well against lefties in the spring, so his splits might not be as bad as one might think. Season outcome predictions. This is what it's all about, and we'll get things wrapped up here. For the first time in what seems like forever, so many outlets are picking us, the Braves, to win the NL, and I ain't going to argue with it. I ain't going to argue with that. Yeah, sure, experts, you finally know what you're talking about. I do think we win 100-plus games again. The Phillies and Mets will be tough. The Phillies are even tougher. I stand by what I said last year the same way I said this year. I'm a little more, I guess, shaky about the Phillies than I am the Mets. But, man, it just sucks for the Phillies because Rhys Hoskins was probably about to have a monster year. He was in a contract year. He was just coming off a huge postseason performance. He was trying to get paid this year, and I think he was going to earn it. But you get freak injuries, man. Non-contact injury in spring leads to a torn ACL. They lose him for the season. So no Rhys Hoskins for them. And Bryce Harper's going to miss some extended time to start the season as well. So the Phillies may be out to a slow start, but they're just like us in the fact that they always seem to have a surge in the second half of the season. So keep an eye out for the Phillies. The Mets, still tough, but they're the Mets. Sorry, not sorry. Michael Harris. I'm sorry. The Mets just... I won't get into it this time, but this is definitely a Mets slander page. Definitely a Mets slander page. I can't help it. But, so, like I said, Phillies and Mets will be tough. But let's not forget who runs the East, people. It's the Atlanta Braves, the back-to-back NL East champs. Looking for another one, and we are ready to go. Signing off here, Chandler Wilkerson, a.k.a. Chan, a.k.a. Big Country _6, Instagram and Twitter. We'll be seeing. Shout out Book It with Trent.